Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources and really try to dig into them. Find those compelling insights, surprising facts. Maybe those aha moments you weren't expecting. Today, we're plunging into a classic film. On the surface, maybe it looks like a straightforward B-movie.
Yeah, definitely.
But underneath that sci-fi look, it's got this really biting critique of society. Feels, honestly, even more relevant now. We're talking John Carpenter's 1988 cult classic, They Live.
It's such a fascinating film, isn't it? Because it really does sort of masquerade as just a simple alien invasion thing. But the sources we've looked at, they show it's this scathing indictment of, well, capitalism, consumer culture, that whole vibe. So our mission today is kind of to pull back that curtain, like Roddy Piper does with the sunglasses in the movie.
Right.
And reveal the untold truths behind it all, the origins, the message, all of it.
That's exactly it. We're going to explore its maybe unexpected inspirations, some mysteries around the main character.
The everyman.
Yeah. And how that legendary fight scene, the one, and that classic one-liner came about, how they sort of became immortalized.
Yeah.
And then we'll peel back the layers on its political message, which is surprisingly direct. Look at how Carpenter got that across.
Definitely.
Because what They Live was saying decades ago.
Yeah.
Well, it might just make you see things around you a little differently today. So let's start right at the beginning.
Yeah.
The screenplay for They Live, it's credited to a Frank Armitage.
Right.
Now, if you know Carpenter's films, you might recognize that name, Keith David's character.
Mm-hmm.
But what did our sources tell us about who this screenwriter actually was?
Yeah, that's a great detail to start with. Our sources confirm, Frank Armitage is a pseudonym, and it is John Carpenter himself.
Okay.
What's interesting, though, is why. He apparently chose not to take sole credit because he genuinely felt it was such a collaborative thing.
Oh, interesting.
Not just with Sandy King, who produced and later became his wife, but also with Roddy Piper. And the name itself, Armitage. He lifted that from H.P. Lovecraft.
Lovecraft. From the Dunwich Horror.
Exactly. Classic story where people find out these hidden, terrifying truths, and it sort of drives them mad. Fits the theme, doesn't it?
It really does. So while the name has that Lovecraft connection, was that horror story the direct inspiration for the plot of They Live? Or was it something else?
Good question. While that theme, hidden truths, madness, it definitely resonates in They Live, but the direct plot inspiration, that came from a 1963 short story by Ray Nelson.
Okay.
It's called 8 o'clock in the morning. It later became a comic book, too, in 86.
Right.
And that story has a character named Nada who, he wakes up to the fact that aliens are secretly running the world, controlling everyone's thoughts.
So Carpenter took that core idea, the hidden reality, seeing it through special sight.
Exactly. He took that and really expanded on it, adapted it to fit his own vision, his own critique of society.
And speaking of Nada, Roddy Piper's character is called Nada in the film.
Yeah.
But you're right. You never actually hear anyone say his name.
Only in the credits.
Yeah, just the credits. This idea of him being this blank slate, this sort of everyman, it feels really central. How did Carpenter approach creating such a, mysterious main character?
It's a really smart choice, making him an everyman, someone you can easily kind of project onto.
Yeah.
Carpenter apparently said later he thought of the character's first name as John, and he even had this, whole backstory planned out in his head. But here's the interesting part.
What's that?
He never actually fully fleshed it out himself.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, right? Carpenter actually told Roddy Piper, he tasked him with creating the character's full origin story.
Yeah, exactly.
And the kicker, Piper was told never to share it with Carpenter.
Right. The idea was it would make Piper's performance more authentic. Nada's actions were coming from this real but unseen past.
And Piper took it seriously. He never did reveal it, did he?
Right.
Before he passed away in 2015.
Never went on record. So Nada stays this complete mystery, even to Carpenter himself, the guy who wrote and directed it.
It really shows Carpenter's trust in his actors, and Piper's commitment too.
Totally. By leaving that space, that internal world for Piper to create, it just reinforces that everyman thing. His past isn't the point, really.
It's about his discovery now.
Yeah.
His reaction.
Yeah, the sort of madness of seeing the world as it truly is. That's what's unsettling.
Okay, let's shift gears to maybe the most famous bit in the whole film. That alleyway fight. 6 minutes long between Nada and Frank, Keith David's character.
Oh, yeah, legendary.
It's been called one of the most brutal, most realistic fights ever put on film.
Yeah.
Referenced, parodied constantly. What made that scene just so impactful?
Well, Carpenter wanted something gritty, something real, completely different from, the usual slick, stylized action you saw.
Right.
So he brought in Jeff Imada, the stunt coordinator. Great guy, worked on Lethal Weapon, stuff like that. But then he really leaned on Roddy Piper.
His wrestling experience.
Exactly. All those years in the ring. So you had Imada's careful choreography, but combined with Piper's just raw, authentic fighting style, it created something.
Yeah.
Unprecedented.
It feels less like a movie fight.
And more like this desperate, exhausting struggle. You can feel the exhaustion. Apparently, they both left marks on each other, literally. David said Piper was incredibly realistic, and Piper apparently said David hits like a mule.
Wow.
It's that sheer refusal to give up on both sides that just grabs you.
And that fight leads right into another totally unforgettable moment. Nada's line.
Don't even have to say it.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum. It's just burned into pop culture. But our sources say that wasn't Carpenter's line.
Yeah, another great example of Carpenter trusting his actor, right? Letting Piper bring something unique.
So how did it happen?
Okay, so after Nada finds out what's really going on, bit of a scuffle with the cops, he ducks into a bank, shotgun in hand, and it's then, as everyone's just staring at him, stunned, that he drops that line. Carpenter said Piper actually carried around a notebook.
A note.
Full of one-liners he'd used in his wrestling promos over the years. Carpenter just looked through it, picked the best one for that moment.
No way.
Yeah. He just fit Nada perfectly, didn't it? This desperate guy, totally disillusioned, who's just had enough.
That's an amazing behind-the-scenes detail. Okay, so you take all these creative choices, the pseudonym, the mystery protagonist, the fight, the line. What does it all add up to? What's the film's ultimate point? Carpenter wasn't exactly subtle, was he?
Not at all. I mean, think about who the heroes are. They're down on their luck, homeless guys.
Yeah.
And who are the villains? The aliens? They look like rich yuppies. Politicians, even. That contrast really hammers home the film's core message.
He's even called They Live a documentary.
He has, about how the upper class exploits the poor. And the film shows it visually, doesn't it? Nada puts on the glasses and suddenly billboards, magazines, money.
Right.
It all just screams obey, marry and reproduce, do not question authority.
Yeah.
It paints this picture where everything we want, everything we choose is maybe being manufactured for us.
And he actually filmed the opening scenes in a real homeless settlement, right? Paid the residents as extras.
Yeah, that shows real commitment to the critique he was making. And Carpenter was very, very clear about who he saw as symbolizing the excess he was attacking.
He definitely named names.
Oh, he did. He's never been shy about it. He basically said They Live was meant to be a ballistic missile aimed right at 80s materialism, specifically the Reagan administration.
Right.
In interviews back then, and even years later, he'd call Reagan and his team a bunch of crooks, said he felt like he had to make a statement because nobody else would.
Wow.
He saw the film as his way of giving the finger to Reagan, basically, a direct cinematic protest against those policies, that whole cultural vibe of the era.
So the aliens weren't just sci-fi window dressing.
Not at all. They were a pretty thin metaphor for what Carpenter saw as this oppressive, consumer-driven agenda taking over.
And that really brings us to the end of our deep dive into John Carpenter's They Live. It's pretty remarkable how a film that looks like a B-movie, aliens invading, how it can carry such an enduring message about things like economic inequality, societal control, a message that, frankly, still hits hard today.
It really does. And what's fascinating when you look at the sources is how Carpenter just skillfully wove everything together. Inspirations from short stories, real political commentary, but also letting key things like that one-liner or Nada's whole backstory
Emerge organically.
Yeah, emerge organically from the people he was working with. It really shows how, strong creative vision, but also being open to collaboration. That can create something really impactful, something timeless. The film isn't just telling you what to think, is it? It's kind of showing you how to see, or how you could see, maybe.
Absolutely. You definitely get that sense that They Live wasn't just entertainment. It was that ballistic missile, like he said, aimed at the excess of its time, made to make a statement when maybe others weren't.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for you, listening? Maybe as you go about your day, just think about this. If They Live held a mirror to the 1980s, what kinds of subtle messages, or maybe not so subtle ones, might we be missing today? Even without needing special sunglasses. It definitely makes you wonder, doesn't it, about how we perceive the world around us and maybe what forces could be shaping that perception. Something to think about.